basically teach you how to put sync beeps or two beeps at the beginning and end of your timeline or your film in order to export. And I'm also going to add a head slate, and I'm going to actually add a timecode burn-in because that's very useful when collaborating with people and wanting to communicate about specific cuts. And this is all industry standard and something you're going to use a lot if you do editing for a living. So very useful skills. So we're going to need a few things. So I'll just first of all show you my project. I've got my cutting copies here, and sometimes there'll be multiple cutting copies. So these are our sequence that we've cut. So this is our sort of finished rough cut. If you do have multiple rough cuts, then I sort of start collecting fine cuts. I try to keep lots of my cuts in case I want to go back to them later. That's just me. And then there's my media. Obviously, there's not very much here because it's just a simple project that I've set up, a sort of dummy project. I might break this down into multiple bins within folders of different media, sound, different scenes, these sorts of things. But for now, it's just in the one bin. And then I have a folder called sequences to export. And that's where I'm sort of building my sequences with timecode and two beeps and head slates and this sort of thing, so that I don't always have them just sitting on my cutting copy getting in the way. Okay, so we're going to need a bunch of things to begin with. We're going to start with a sequence. So I'm just going to create a new sequence and call it Between Two Worlds Rough Cut. And I'm going to date and time it. That's just a personal preference for organizing my work. So that's, oh, I just missed the date there. That's February 8th, 1:45 p.m., which actually I may go 24-hour clock because that will be more clear. So the next thing I need, well, there's no particular order, but one of the things I need is I need tone. So I'm just going to grab audio tools here in the drop down. I'm going to hit the PH button here in the right and hit create tone. And then it's going to create me some tone. It always defaults to -20 dB. That's exactly what we want. And then we hit OK. And I think it ended up in a different bin. Where did it end up? Oh, media bin. Here we go. I'm just going to drag that over. Put that back over here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to need is color bars. And now that's a little funky. We're going to go into applications. And if we just scroll up here. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. So we go into the Avid Media Composer folder right here. And I've sort of already got these open, but inside Avid Media Composer, there's a folder called Supporting Files, and you just open that up. Test Patterns, and inside Test Patterns, you see all these SMPTE bars. We're going to go for something that's 1080, because that's what we're using. So trying to match your footage, and we're going to go for the SMPTE bars, and it's a TIF, which means it's essentially an image. An image file. As you can see, there's that classic SMPTE color bars. Of course, this is our tone, and it's basically just a big, loud beep. And the other thing we're going to need is to create some titles for our head slate. So we go to Tools, Title Tool Application. Doesn't need to be fancy. And that does not want to open. Oh, there we go. Title Tools. And I'm just going to cut and paste in the information that I need. This is, of course, all on the assignment sheet. That all looks a little big as far as font goes, so I'm just going to make that smaller. And then I would sort of like fill in all my info here. For example, the date it was exported. On a professional gig, you might have a format that you need to put on the head slate, or particular sort of broadcast numbers or reference numbers for your client. For now, this is what we need. And then just fill in names right here. All right, so I am going to save that as head slate. All right, and then the other thing I'm going to need is some slug. Now you can grab slug by using the filler, load filler up here, and that's essentially black video. But I find it difficult to use because you can't. It doesn't act like a clip. There's a way in which it sort of has to exist between two clips, and I find it much easier to have something that behaves a bit more like a clip. So I have a little workaround for that. I basically create a blank title card. So I'm just gonna do a save title card as, and I'm just gonna call it slug, also known as filler, also known as black video in Premiere. Basically, it's just black video. Okay, and we do a save, and I'm actually gonna move everything over to here. I realize I'm sort of default populating the media bin right there. All right. So now we have our head slate, we have our slug, we have our SMPTE bars, we have our tone, and we have our sequence. So the first thing that goes down is our head slate, and we want 5 seconds of that. So I'm going to make an endpoint on my head slate. I'm going to press play, and I'm just going to watch the time code up here until I see 5. I'm going to arrow back to exactly 5, and I actually chop off 1 frame, as you'll start to see why later. I'm just going to hit V to put it in my timeline. And the next thing I need is my bars. So to get 1 frame of bars, just hit I for in, O for out, and then V. And you don't have to move it at all. That just clips out 1 frame for you. And I need 1 frame of tone also. So I for in, O for out, V to get it on the timeline. And then I am going to just slide it over so that it is in sync, and that's of course very important that these two are on the exact same frame. There they are. So there's our head slate. We go right into our bars and tone, and then we're going to need 2 seconds of slug. So we go to our little dummy slug thing I've made here, my little workaround. Put an endpoint. I'm going to watch till this gets to 2. I'm going to arrow back to 2. Whoa. And I'm actually going to chop off 2 more frames and put an out point. For whatever reason, this makes it work. I'm a little bit confused on the math. Oh, I put that in the wrong place. Just going to apple Z out of that. And arrow over on my timeline. And there you go. So now you have, let's just take a look at this. So the head slate starts at 0. Actually, the head slate starts at 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. That's sort of how all timelines generally start, with the 0, 1. We'll get into why that happens, or you'll sort of start to see why that's one of the reasons that it starts like that. And then, of course, there's our sync beep at exactly 5 seconds. And then there's our slug. And our picture will start at exactly 7 seconds in. 5 seconds plus 2 seconds of slug, exactly 5 seconds in. So I'm going to have to sort of rebuild this on the other side. So I do it now just for ease and quickness while it's all together. I'm going to basically build it, but in reverse, sort of a mirror image. So it'll be slug, tones, and then tail slate. So I'm going to hit Command C, Command V, so that while slug is highlighted, so that I can copy a piece of slug, and then same thing for my bars and tone, Apple C, and then I'm going to put it over here, Apple V. And then same thing for my title card there. All right, so let's just make that a little bit smaller. Okay, so as you can see, I'll probably make it a little bit bigger. We've got our title card, and then our sync beeps, and then our picture is going to sit right in the middle here. But for now, there's our slug, and then our sort of tail sync beep, and then our tail title card there. All right, so now we're going to bring in our edited video. We're going to put it right in here. Make sure that the yellow arrow is selected. You don't want to select the red arrow because then you're going to overwrite with the video. So we're going to go over to our cut and copy. And we're going to open that up. And we're going to use this button, which highlights everything to the right of the playhead. So we've got the playhead right up on the first shot, and then highlight everything to the right. And then I'm going to Command C to copy it. And then I'm going to go to my sequences to export. And then I'm going to Command V to paste it in. And there we have it. And I'm just going to make sure, oh, yeah, that's my last shot. I absolutely brought everything in. I'm going to check my first shot. Oh, yeah, that's my first shot. I mean, with yours, it may be that you have titles either end to make it very easy to make sure you brought everything in. And there you are. You're sort of ready to go as far as your title card, your head slate at the beginning, your sync beeps, your slug, your film. So now we're going to add a little bit of time code burn in. Oh, and before I guess we get too far, we'll just double check that, yes, that starts at 7 exactly. And of course, we just have double checked this. That's at 5. And so we're in good shape. Sometimes people just have maybe 3 seconds of head slate, so that's 5 seconds. Yeah, there isn't really a standard that I know of, but if your client wants a standard, they'll probably give you a list of deliverables, and that information should be in there. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to do now is actually adjust the time code and where it starts in the sequence. So to do that, we click on here and we pull over to this here, the start and where the time code starts. You can sort of program that. And we're going to program it to be 59 minutes and 53 seconds. So it's going to start at 59 minutes and 53 seconds, and I'll show you why that's important. Yes, we do want to change that. Okay, so now our head slate starts at 59:53. Our slug is at 59:58. And then the very first frame of video or sound starts at 1. So essentially sort of starts at the beginning of the time, what would have been the beginning of the timeline. And so your time code now refers directly to your video and doesn't include all this sort of stuff that doesn't belong to your video. And I just want to be clear whether this might be a video image where your film starts, or it might be sound. Don't have your sort of like sound sort of like building up in the slug or anything like that. If the first frame of your cut is black video and it's just saying music starting before your titles come up, that's what is at 1. That first frame of sound kind of swelling, even if that's black video, just to be clear. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add a time code, and we do that by right-clicking over here and creating a new video track. We're going to put our time code on that. And then you find timecode. I'm just going to make this small. You find timecode burn-in in effects. So we're going to go to effects palette, and then we're going to click generate, and then we're going to click timecode burn-in. Actually, we're going to just drag timecode burning down. All right, and I cannot see timecode burn-in because I need to do that. And now I can see timecode burning, and as you can see, it references the timecode of the sequence. And I generally chop the timecode off here. Whoop. By creating an edit point and just erasing that part of the clip. So it sort of just starts during the video. And I'm going to do the same back here. Oop. That's me using my shortcuts from other programs in Avid. It's amazing. I should really just set them all up to match. And I'm just going to erase this part here. So basically the time code just sits on our video. And now that's kind of in a funky spot. It's not bad, but it's kind of weird. So one of the things we can do is edit it using effect editor. And that just allows us to kind of grab that little pink square. My computer is not very happy these days. And just sort of move the time code over a little bit. There we go. And there's all sorts of information you can add as well if you so desire. Where's the effects editor? Over here. There's all sorts of extra info you could add. But I'm not too worried. I just want to add the time code so that if a client or someone I'm collaborating with wants to refer to a very specific moment in the cut, they can say, at 01, 01, 26, 27, I think you could tighten that up 3 frames, without having to be like, oh, the shot when she's walking across the street, It just makes everything very, very clear when we're passing notes, say via email, when we're not in the same location. So there we go. And that's everything ready to go. You can basically just perform an export from this timeline. And sometimes I will keep these. I will sort of, when I'm doing a new one of these, I'll just duplicate it and sort of change some of the information and just play around with it so I don't have to completely rebuild it from scratch and, of course, replace the video and all that sort of stuff. But there's a way in which you can sort of work with that architecture to recreate it. Thanks for listening, and hopefully this was clear. Let me know, email me if you have any concerns or questions.